Hello, everyone, and welcome to session two for Mastering Your Money and Finances. We're glad that everyone's here. You should be muted to start off with, and we're going to ask you if you would stay on mute to begin with until you have a question. And Peter will stop a couple times during the session and just ask for questions. At that point, you can either raise your hand with the icon at the very bottom of your Zoom screen, or if you want to ask it personally, I can even unmute you and bring you on live, and we'll let you ask whatever question you'd like to do. All right, so we're going to jump right into it. We always start off our meetings with the trainings with a prayer. So I'm going to ask John if he would open us up in prayer.
You bet. Lord, we just thank you for this opportunity. We ask your blessing on Peter tonight and on the message that he has for us. We just thank you that we have this opportunity and just that you would impress it upon our hearts, Lord. And we just thank you in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, Peter, I'm going to give you the main stage.
Thank you, John. And yes, welcome everyone. I hope we're going to have some fun here. Let me share my screen so that we can just be reminded of how this works. So the course of study is Mastering Your Money. It's one of the six main areas of living a balanced life. Money isn't the most important, of course, but it sure has a quick impact. So what we're going to be covering is about these four main objectives that everybody has. So go to the left, and you're spending, debt, taxes, and a security or retirement, long-term savings. So those are the four financial issues, concerns that everyone has. There's 10 principles as you're being introduced to them. And as you learn those principles and apply them, then you move to tools, and then you end up with resources from those tools, and then you make a financial decision. But when you're being sold products, very seldom do they ever start with your objective and then attach the principle. And so for a successful financial decision, and many of them that we all face for our entire lives, is really need to be armed with these principles and how they apply to the objectives that we're trying to meet. And if we do that, then over here, when we get to the product, we'll understand how a product fits because we can trace it all the way back to the objective. Okay, so I just wanted you to be reminded of that. Now, I want to give you this. These are the things you're going to accomplish, and many, many more. But you will find 1% of your annual income that you'll consider it wasting or redirecting it, that you're not getting the best benefit out of it. You'll also be out of debt in every regard, mortgage, business debt, things, 10 years. Once in a while you miss it. You're out of debt in 13 years, 12 years instead of 10. But most often it's 10 years or less. And so if you don't have a lot of business debt, you're going to be out of debt with your mortgage at least 10 years or less. Average is 7.2 years to be out of debt. And I've done it many times, hundreds and hundreds of times. And so you'll have the tools be given to you. You're going to add at least $500,000 to your retirement. The average is well over now $1 million just by going through the 10 principles and applying them. And we're going to show you how to save a ton of tax. And okay, so now I'm moving on to this. This is
Hey, Peter, I have a question for you real quick. If you just can you go back to that last slide?
sure, sure.
Because I think that I like the fact that the 1% per month that equates to a 12%, right? You add that up.
Yeah, that's right. It's 12%.
Yeah. So you find 12% of your annual income that now that's being wasted or directed in the wrong place. Okay.
But it's a good point, John. Thank you for pausing me there. There's a ton of people who have access to a 401k, and many employers will do a match, a 3% match if you put up 3% of your own money, or 4 or 5. There's only national statistics show that only 27% participate in a 401k that have access to one. because they can't come up with their 3% or their 4%. They can't. It's horrible. So this course is directed to them, employees of employers, so that in fact they can find their 1% a month, and it's easy to get the match. But it's not good to have access to 4% more money and lose out because you can't find 4% from yourself. Yeah. Okay. So the system is this, and it will go left to right. That's the best way. Don't start from the right and end at the right because it won't work well. Okay. Now I want to cover one little thing here. This one. So we asked you last time to go through up through principle 2 and principle 1 and 2, but here's your national statistic. Can you see down here on the bottom? Let me shrink it so you can get it all on the same. But the average family goes through a little bit under $3 million in a lifetime. That's how much they earn. If you're a tax accountant, you might make 7 million. If you're a doctor, you might make 12 million. Some attorneys make 14 million. But after you have all of this go through your fingers, I'm talking about $3 million in your lifetime, and you spend it and try to save, the average family, according to the US Census in 2020, has less than $60,000 total assets, including equity in a home. I know you all here are way better than this, but I want you to understand this is a horrible problem across the nation. So then this is just really it really hurts. I want you. So I know that you probably did your assignment, but let's go to the. I want to go to the assessment, and let's just see where you're at with your. Yeah. Sorry, sorry. This is I need the intro, sorry. Okay, here's the assessment. There's 12 questions, and as you filled it out, we also gave it to you automatically, so you can just do it very quickly and fill it out. I would like you to, anybody would raise their hand and answer my question. When you answered some of these questions, like how often do you argue with your spouse or partner about money, or about net worth? How do you know how to calculate a net worth? I know many of you would and should, but did any of you learn anything about yourself by answering these questions? In other words, did you learn anything just looking at your score? Let's try one. How much of your gross income are you saving? These are simple questions.
I think just having the assessment, Peter, puts it in black and white. So much of the time it stays vague and just kind of in your mind, it kind of floats around, but actually assessing it gives you a number.
Yeah, we did a study. Here's a question: do you have a clear retirement plan? There's only 3% of the people who have a written plan.
I'll be glad to answer questions, but I don't know.
Please do.
Um, so, I mean, I did Dave Ramsey way back when,
Yeah.
and, not strictly following it.
A little louder.
Lean into your mic a little bit, Don.
Not strictly following his plan. We did a very good job of getting out of debt, and we've been out of debt for a long time.
Wonderful. That's great.
12, 14 years. It is wonderful. But I realize how sloppy I've got. I I don't think I have a whole lot of monthly subscriptions, but I don't know. But I do realize that there's.
Hey, Don, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you not hear me?
Yeah, no, I can't. Can you get closer to your microphone? You're sound very far off from your mic.
Well, I'll continue, but the point that Don's making is so valid. I took the initiative to join Dave Ramsey's master coach, and I went through his years of training and met with him personally in his own personal training. So I'm a master coach from Dave Ramsey, and I just needed to know what he taught and how he taught it, and he does so well on controlling spending, which we're talking about right here, and I'll tell you the contrast here in just a couple of minutes. But but after you get your spending in control so you can get out of debt, then the problem becomes, what do you do then? And so these 10 principles are going to wrap it all together. So great. So let's just take an example here with this family, or the Nelson family. And I hope you can see it. I'm going to get it big enough. Yeah, there you go. So let's just say they have $4,000. This is an actual case. I know them well. Watched them for many years. $4,000 a month, and here's how they spent. And as they got started, they put down this money, and so here's how they spent, and they ran out of money after the 12th item. So they spent $4,006, and now they're out of money, but they still decided to eat out, and they put that on a credit card. They needed to be saving. They always wanted to save money, but they didn't have any money, so they didn't save any money. But this is an area that is really lacking. That changed dramatically shortly. Item 15, they wanted a new TV and they got it. They just put it on credit. And they want to go visit grandma. She was not feeling well and they wanted to go do it. It's about $600, but they should be putting away $100 a month. So in 6 months, they have the money. They didn't do that. And then they had an unfortunate break in their water heater. Number 17, it cost them $850. And they said to me, Peter, had it had not been for the water heater that broke, financially, we'd be okay. This is then, this is what they told me. I'm reading it here. The Nelsons told me the water heater was the culprit. Point. Within 3 months, when they built a spending plan and tracked it, as we're going to do right now together, the darndest thing happened. They apologized to me for that statement right there. They said, we had no control. We were in la la land, and we had over 33 grand of credit card debt, and we had no clue. So there's a principle here called, when you track it, you control it. So I'm going to be rhetorical in my questions so that we can move faster. But I was, what keeps a kite in the air?
Wind.
The wind. Well, no, you're right. That's one part. What else keeps the kite in the air?
The string.
The string. So cut the string, and what happens to the kite?
It blows away or falls down.
Yeah. And so the string keeps it at an angle so it flies. So the very thing that keeps the kite to fly is the thing that ties it to the ground. And that's what tracking does. People object to so much control. I don't want to track everything. It's just too much control. And yet, if you put out more string, the kite goes higher. If you track it more and get more in detail and know more where your money's going, you can fly. Financially, you fly. It's really, really powerful. And so this is a huge principle. I want to add one more point to all this, and that is you really have a problem when you don't track. You never know what's going to happen. So I want to show you about variable income. Then we'll get into how do you actually build it. But in this case, there's A and B. So right now they're spending at A because their income averages that. So if you look at all the averaging, and so the D is debt. When their income belows what they're spending, they create some debt, credit card debt or whatever. And here's the S for surplus. And so some people have a level income and it's a little easier to manage. But I just want you to see that if you just have a spending plan that we're going to build and you move your spending from A to B, you're never going to have any debt. Sounds easy, I know, and it's hard, but we're going to cover that. But if you do it the right way, you're not going to have any problems. So here's I'm going to shrink this down so you can see. You all have a book, and so I want you to I need to get it bigger for. I'll just move it around. Just so this is the key is emotional training. So what I'm asking you to do here is with years and years and years of experience. I really have been training people for 60 years and I have a few million clients. And in our state, we're number one bankruptcy state in the nation. We've been that way for 37 years. Utah, we have 1 out of every 36 families file bankruptcy every year. And it's been a sore spot for many years. I approached our legislature. I said, why don't you teach it in school? Why don't you teach it a little bit about money? And so 8 years ago, they passed a regulation that if schools don't teach us for credit in high school, they don't get funded. So they really quickly all got a teacher and got curriculum, and then they wanted to know what kind of curriculum would be taught. And we all I put together curriculum. So mine was selected. It's called General Financial Literacy. So to graduate from high school in our state, you have to take my class. And this is what is taught, is it's not a budget. So I appreciate Dave Ramsey's budget, and it's a good effort. But a spending plan, let's walk through the elements of this plan. You have the top section on income, and that shows you historical, what you've done. If your spouse works, what their income is, and you combine them over here. Then you withhold everything. You withhold the Medicare, the federal, the FIA, the federal tax, state tax, and FICA, anything that goes out of your paycheck. And then that number goes right here at the end of this red arrow. So it's called total spendable monthly income. So you need that number. That's the key number to start with. So go back, just last month, if you will. I'm anxious for you to do it for 12 months. So you don't really know where you're at emotionally if you only go back 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. If you go back 12 months and you put a total, so it'll take you maybe 3-4 hours. And I hope you have good records because what I want you to do is add up where you spent your money for the last 12 months in all of these categories. Now, if your categories don't align with this, just cross it out and put the one that you want. But when you have 12 months of spending on auto, you got any business expenses, cleaning and laundry, clothing, gifts, so forth. As you get down here, have you put any money into long-term savings, like long-term savings here would be a 401k perhaps, or an IRA or things. But notice then when you're done, you're going to have a total because you'll have gone 12 months here. And then you get to add, you get to do one more calculation, you divide by 12. So the key is to get this monthly average per month right here. Because you're going to use that second column to forecast March of 2026. And when you forecast, you're going to be pretty accurate because you'll see this. So let's suppose you got car expense, but you bought a new car, you're not going to have repairs. And repairs are $169 a month average for last year, for each month for last year, for example. And now you're not going to have 169, so you'll adjust it here. So once you know what the last 12 months did to you in all your spending, then you can forecast this next month. The sad fact is that after thousands of people have prepared this, when they come down here in this total, they forecasted March coming up of 2026, that this number is generally on average, when I say generally average, $800 more a month than they make on the net spendable income here. And so that's why people have credit card debt. That's why the Nelsons did the hot water heater. They had to finance it because they did not have surplus money. So that in number 20, emergency savings, they didn't have anything there for a hot water heater. You will have emergencies, and there can be health issues. There can be all kinds of things. There'll be a surprise. When you start tracking and you find out what your financial personality is, you'll know how to adjust. And so this is different because you're going to go back. You're going to go back historically for your income, back historically where you spent your money, and then you're going to forecast third column. If you can't balance, you need to make some major changes. So you do not need to do fixed or variable, but if you can't balance, you need to. So you take these things here that are fixed expenses and put them in this column. Anything else is variable goes in this column. So when you come down here, and let's say they have, in this case, $6,000, and they go and they're having a hard time balancing for their income, that's 5,500. They can put their fixed, the things that are fixed, right in this next column. And what if the fixed came out to be 90% of their total income? If fixed is so gigantic that it doesn't give you any room, you're definitely going to have problems. So the idea when you borrow money for a mortgage, for example, they do not like your debt to income ratio to be over 40%. So if your fixed expenses exceed 40%, you're in trouble. If you're over 60%, is in bigger trouble. So in the training that you're getting in Principle 2 and in 3, so 1, 2, and 3 are all about teaching you how to get control of your emotions so that you can then make adjustments that are hard. Many of you got this done and there's no problem, but it would still be nice for you to go back and do your 12-month review and forecast it forward in here. And then you would decide who gets to spend that money. If you have a spouse, you would you'd divide them up according to how you want to do it. And that money would go into your spouse's account to the areas that they're covering. And then there's a little box here, and it's called tax deductible. So right now, there's several of these things are deductible, but you don't know it until you get to Principle 9. And so when you get to 9, you'll have check mark these things, or you haven't, and you've come back to it and you check them again, and you say, okay, I really can deduct with the medical HSA on number 16 on my medical and dental. I can deduct that as long as I have an agreement to do it, and you'd come back and check that. So this check mark just teaches you how to learn about taxes and when you can deduct some things. And so you'll learn when you get to 9, it's going to show you how to take many of these things here and make them tax deductible. So for example, let's just take vacations and trips. Would you like to be able to deduct the cost of vacations? If you're a home builder, you would want to, let's suppose you traveled way out of state, maybe even a different country, or down to the Bahamas or wherever. But if you then check out other contractors and interview them when you're there for a few minutes, and you make an appointment with them and you learn from them and how they do their home remodeling or home building, you can turn it into a tax deductible item. So when you save taxes, then that will be less up here. So you're going to have more in the net spendable. So generally speaking, when you get through Principle 9 quickly, like when we get to it before the end of this year, you'll be through Principle 9, and you should be able to find at least $2,000 to $3,000 in tax savings, if not more. And if you do have a small business in that, it'll be much more than that. Okay, so any questions so far?
Peter, I don't know can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Becky is asking what emotional savings is on your list there.
Oh, what is it you say?
Yeah, emotional savings.
That's mad money. That's fun money that has no accounting to it whatsoever.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense.
In other words, somebody's going to want to have some fun. They're beat up. They're tired, and they say, "We got to go to, the Everglades for a break, and we're going to take 2 days." Uh, when that happens, and you don't have any money for that account, you just put on a credit card. But when you plan for it, like some people get a tax return, say $3,000, and they'll put $2,000 of the return here in this item, emotional spending, because they want money there. So whenever they want to, they can look to it, say, how much do we have in our emotional account? So it's rewarding you to plan to have fun. But when you use this money that's in this account, it has no impact on anything else. So that really is emotional account savings. I mean, that's for fun. That's for thing. Okay, does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so long term, emergencies is a different account. These are the three. That's in principle three that you'll learn next time as you go through it. But when people can't balance, these are left out. Most people will not have these three accounts set up. They need to be separate. They need to have their own place to put the money. And so these are the most common left out, and vacations. And so when you can't balance, you can then look that. But see, that is the concern, is that you need to make sure you have money for those. So you really do have some money for emergencies set aside. You really do have some fun money, mad money that has no accounting to it whatsoever. You spend it any way you wish. Anyway, so so when you are in balance, when this number at the end of each of this red arrow, below and up, when they are in balance and you have those three accounts set up, 20, 21, 22, I mean, you're really on the right track. Okay. So now let's go to the next page. This is just the same page, except we're going to forecast it for the example, in this case, March. And so you're going to say in that third column, sorry to go back and forth, but in this third column, next month's forecast, you take the numbers in this column, and now you begin with a monthly forecast. So you'll say, here's what my months looks like. Here's my net spendable for March. And then here's what I'm going to spend in March all the way down here. And you need to balance. The goal is to get closer with experience so that you're it. And if you have a surprise, you learn from it.
If you have excess, like if we say, "Oh,
You can have excess. Good. But the excess could be put here in one of these three accounts: emergency, emotional, or long term. But then again, then you're tracking it. You give responsibilities to yourself or your spouse, and then when you actually track it, and that's the next form, you can use this. This is a simple tracker. If you're more complex, you use the bigger one. Trainings there in the manual, and I can certainly go over it tonight. But what I want you to understand is, when you get done tracking on a separate page, you put the totals right here. Here's what you actually spent. So watch. Here's what you forecasted. Here's the responsibilities given, but here's what you actually spent. When you really know what you thought you would do, and you actually spent it in, say, March. So you can go back and add up January, February, and March, and you can have 3 months in this year to date. So by the end of the year, can you see you would have 12-month total in this column? And that coordinates perfectly with the previous historical 12 months. So when you can always see what you did last month, the last quarter, the last year, and you compare it to what you thought you would do in income, you compare it to what you thought you would do in expenses, that brings you into total control. So in this tracker, this is just tracking. A lot of people don't have large numbers of spend auto repair. They may not spend anything in some given months. And so if they want to keep it all on one sheet, That's what this is for. And all of these are, I put red on them for instruction purposes, but they're all in the back of the thing and they're clean and crisp. And then there's different colors, green, blue, pink, so that you can have different accounts. And you can put it on a different color of paper to make the same result. But I'm just saying, so I know it sounds silly, but I'm really kind of anxious for you to do pen and paper. I'm just speaking from a ton of experience. You can get, you need a budget. You can do Quicken. You can do any number of things, and you certainly do it. I'm not your father, and I'm not mad at you. Please. It's just that I want you to understand that there's some magic when you forecast, make assignments, take responsibility, and you track, and you now have a total, and then now you have not only March, but now you have March and April, or March and I mean April and May. Uh, I'm sorry, I keep saying March. I mean May. Please forgive me. But when you have May and you have June and July, and they're all right here, you can divide this quickly just by looking at it. What do you average on a monthly basis? So you really are taking control. But watch what happens here when you have a year to date and all the errors, and you've been through the tax training so that you know what parts of how to turn vacations into tax deductible. Now you have a total there. So just so you know, when I set my clock, my timer, when I go to prepare my taxes, I make sure I get all the forms together. I'm not waiting for forms. So I make sure I get all the necessary tax forms in front of me, and then I start. But because I have totals, I'm done in 7 minutes. And I get the maximum tax deductions. So when I have a
Peter?
question, yeah,
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
On the emergency fund saving, the emotional account and the vacations are long-term savings, that's right. Are these actual accounts or are they on paper and then you spend from the paper, or do you actually have something separated into different accounts?
I'd like you to put training wheels on and have separate accounts to start with. Once you are in full control and you have no problem, you can combine the accounts to make it easy for you if you wish. But it's nice to have separate accounts so you really are rewarded when you see how much you have in emergency savings. My wife and I, we track. We've been doing it for all these many years. So we had unusual things occur at $367 a month. Over here in this right-hand column, after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years. And I kept saying, what is going on here? We can't be so accurate. So we have a separate account from all of these, and it's called the $367 account. And we just planned for it because the surprises come. And there are more surprises, and I have an emergency account too, but I'm just submitting to you. You adjust this any way you want, so you are in control. You can devise your own system, but you when you know where you're at, and you have a year to date, and you have last month, and you have last quarter, and you have your tax returns, and then you get it. See, so you're going to hear an idea in this book, in the manual, chapter 9, principles. Understanding taxation allows you to keep more of your money, or you'll be on watching a TV, and there'll be an ad, and it's a good idea. But you'll know it's a good idea because you'll know how to immediately apply it. Or you'll say, that's a stupid idea, that won't work. And you won't spend any time on it to waste it. You won't waste any time on it at all. And so when you learn the principles of tracking and control, I mean, what fun is it to, play a basketball game or go to a basketball game that don't keep score? I mean, I don't know what that all means, but it's not, it doesn't work for me. So anyway, yeah, any questions so far?
Yeah. So Peter, we had a question about what you just said. Did you say that there needs to be a real savings account, like a separate bank account for it? Or how would you recommend that be set up?
Yes, separate.
Uh, so a separate bank account for each of those.
You can put it in cash in an envelope in your drawer. You don't need a separate account.
Okay.
And you can make it any way you want, but you need to identify 3 pots of money, 3 different pots of money. After you've been doing it a while, you're going to get really good, and you can even combine them into one account, but you'll be tracking them separate.
Okay. Uh, Sarah, did that answer your question? If you need any further clarification on it, you can unmute.
Yeah, I think it was just more like you said, I mean, you said we could put it in envelopes and keep it in a drawer or something, but my thing was, do I need to have like individual savings accounts through Bank of America where we bank and label them as such? I don't know if you can label your accounts like with particular savings in the bank, but
Ann and I do, yes.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
But in an envelope, it depends on how much money you're talking in. If it's if you're always in and out of it for example, in emotional savings, we keep cash in an envelope
Okay.
because we just want to know. So I like it when my wife says, "Can we do this?" And then we look and see how much money we have, and then it motivates us to put more in it, so we can do things, and not put it on a card, not put it on a credit card. And so again, we're talking about emotional training here. We're not talking about math and arithmetic and accounting. It looks like it, but you see, we're messed up as a nation. I mean, what you should have learned in reading in the intro and all that is that we have disease of consumerism. I mean, who isn't selling? Where do you go that you're not being sold something? Internet, TV, when? I timed it the other day, and half of the entire show was ads, and I don't like it. I mean, of course, I know you don't either, but I'm just saying we're being encouraged to purchase things so much all the time, and a great way to do it is go back 12 months to see where you're at. Forecast forward, put it on this monthly thing for the month of May that's coming up. Sorry about saying March, but when you have it here and then the month's over and you have an actual spend for May, you're finally going to start learning about your own personal financial personality, your personal money personality. It's a big day. I was in the grocery store the other day and I was behind a mother and she had 2 little boys. We were in line. They finally got close to the checker and checking us out. And the 2 boys kept saying, "Can I have candy, candy, candy?" And I counted. The boys asked her 5 times before she finally, on the 6th time, she said, "Yeah, you can have one." And I had to smile because the mother has trained her boys. The boys know if they'll ask at least 5 times, they'll get candy. What's that going to look like when they want a bicycle? When they want a car in high school? What about college? What about how it overplays with everything? It's amazing kind of habits we get into. What you're looking at right here, and then by tracking it, you can track it on a simple matter here, or you can track it. You can have a different account for each one. That's why you got an account here. If you have a business account, please keep it separate. Personal separate, husband here separate, wife here. So you take responsibility. And even on this, when you can code it, cash is CA, D is debit, check number is 123 or whatever it is, the date transaction you put here, and just right underneath it where it says option 2, that's where you write in what the purpose of it was. So if you're trying to get a tax deduction, you would check the box over here, but you say the purpose here because tax deductions require a business purpose. I know most of you already know that, but this way you can then track it, and then you have the number, the money you spent, balance, whatever you deposit and balance back and forth. At the end of each month, you'll find more template. At the end of the manual, you'll find these though without all the red ink on it. But when you track it, you now become in total control. Now, let me say it again, in total control of your emotions. So what I'm giving you here is emotional training. It is not about money. You think it is. I'm sorry, it's not. And There's so many divorces over money. 90%, the marriage counselors certify 90% of all divorces because of this lack of understanding with money. So it's this is a QR code in your book, and it goes to our newsletter, Balanced Life Principles. And so the point I'm making here is that you have 10 principles, and these 10 principles apply to every area of your life. These principles apply to mental resilience. It applies to having a nice family and a home. It applies to so many ways. So when you learn the principles, as in here is principle 2, is when you track it, you control it. You really are learning how to manage your time. You'll be getting some articles every so often to support what we just went through right here. And you'll be able to read those articles, and you're just going to say, what about money? What about all this? What about all my income here? What about all my spending? What is my goal? And I just submit to you that I think what mine has been is I want more time. Money buys time. Money buys time on the beach. Money buys times with your family. And so if let's suppose we spend a lot of time at work and we don't track it and we spend our money. Now, let me say it differently. What we really are doing is we're spending our life. When we spend the money we've earned with the time we spent working, we are spending our life. If we don't hold it in high esteem and prioritize, we really are going to spend a lot of our life and not really get a benefit. So you can learn more about that if you want to go to that QR code and be encouraged once a week in all 6 areas, not just money. Any questions from there? Okay, so let's summarize. You have the spending is really all about a 3-legged stool. First leg is go back and see where you've been and what you spent. Second thing is forecast, track, and compare. So you want to be doing that on a regular basis. And I promise you that when we started here in the 4 main objectives, and all of us are different levels, but it'll be exciting when you understand these principles and are applying them and see a little bit of benefit come to you. It'll encourage you to really, complete the assignments that are given here. It might be uncomfortable at times. It might be weird and you don't understand them, but please just do the best you can. Okay. All right. So 2 things I want to cover since we're
Peter,
yeah.
just so you know, that QR code is taking us to Elite.
Okay.
So
We'll send it to him an email tomorrow.
yeah, we'll update that for him.
Oh, I didn't check that. So what I want now to introduce to you as we close is 2 things. Nobody's in the bleacher seats. Husbands and wives have a tendency to have one of them like to be in the bleacher seats and let the other one down on the field play. And when they screw up, then you've got 20/20 hindsight that causes a problem. And so if you're both on the playing field and you're both looking at these, so I'm introducing you to the second key point today. Build this, track it, and meet weekly. So I call it the money huddle. The first one might last 30 minutes, but quickly, within a few weeks, it should be 15 or less. Because you'll be right current with everything. And you'll be looking at it together, you'll be tracking it together, and you'll see what you're doing. And so you both are now going to be totally transparent, and neither one of you are going to be sitting in the bleacher seats watching if you take my advice. So the next item that goes with that is to learn how to practice instant forgiveness. So here's a new system, and you're going to make some mistakes where you estimate right here, you're going to forecast a certain kind of spending, and then you violate it. And now you're having your weekly meeting and you have to fess up to it. So a couple of key things, if you notice it, so if I'm the one who violated what my wife and I agreed to, and I know at first she hasn't seen it yet, I need to come to her and say, honey, I'm really sorry, but here's where I made a mistake and I'll try to do better. I'm sorry. So I say, I'm sorry. And her task, her assignment initially, later it won't be an assignment, it'll be a very natural thing, is to say, I forgive you. So when you're married, the idea is to, I forgive you, and you give them a hug and a kiss. I forgive you. Okay, physically, literally do it. I'm not, I said things might feel a little different or weird. Please, uh, please understand. I mean, I have no ego here. I just want you to know I've saved hundreds and hundreds of marriages. I was teaching a high school class out in Centerville, and and, and my other really neat client agreed to teach my other class out at Highland High School, we call it. And we were teaching these, and we get together and recapped after the week's lesson. And so in our school, in our state of Utah, when you have to teach this course of financial literacy, we have a manual, and the kids in high school, 10th, 11th, 12th graders, they take these assignments home, and it's this right here. It's going back and saying, excuse me, you're going to build this here, mom and dad, help me build this. And it's, but you're making the money and you're the earner. So let's do this together. Well, parents don't like to share how much debt they have with their children. Parents don't like to share a lot of things with their children in high school. And so the parents were getting really kind of angry. They were coming into the school and, why do I have to help my child fill an assignment for you? And then you look at my finances. We made those adjustments so they don't have to do that. But it was so funny. So the schools all came and said, why don't you teach an adult continuing education class? No credit, no cost. We charge them $25 for the manual and everything. But anyway, the point is this lady made a lot of money. She was a real estate lady and making well over 200 grand. Her husband was a CPA, but they had divorced, and they were living, of course, separately. But the husband was taking it from Highland, and she was taking it from me at Clearfield. Anyway, after lesson 4 of the 10, she said to me one time after class, she said, Peter, had I known this, I wouldn't be divorced. And so I was talking to my friend Ted. He was teaching the Highland, and he said, "This funny guy." He said to me, "If I'd have known, I'm a CPA. I know about numbers. If I'd have known this, I wouldn't be divorced." And I said, "What's his name?" And they were the husband and wife that divorced. And so I pulled a dinner together, and Adam both come to dinner with me, and introduced them. And they didn't know they were each taking the course, and they did get back together, and they got married. And they're just as happy as can be. And I just submit to you that if you're making 200 grand and he's making well over 150, I mean, you've got 350 grand. Why should you get divorced over money? And so, if you may, I'd like to end with a real personal story. May I do that? So when I did really well. I had 3 businesses and made a lot of money and had a lot of money in savings and getting out of high school, about 50 grand. And so I had own businesses and doing well. And I was going to college at Boise State and got hit head on. And so I get burned up in this car accident. It's in the introduction at the beginning of this book. But so a couple of months go by and I didn't have medical insurance, so I owed a gazillion dollars. And I was in the ICU for several months and in and out of the hospital for 28 major surgeries. And my dad and mom would come and visit me once in a great while together. My mom came every day and it was wonderful, great support. But anyway, so here's my dad on one side of the bed. Here's my mom on the other. Now I'm blind at the time. Didn't know I'd see again. I'm burned, broken ribs, all kinds of bones broken and concussion and whatever, and no medical insurance. So I have my own troubles, I had my own problems, and yet I love my mom and my dad. I love them, and he had a trucking company, so he hauled heavy equipment. He'd haul hay and lumber, but then moved it into big D9 shovel cats and big equipment. And he just was lousy on collecting, and so my mother was always bugging him about, can't you just go collect what we've already done work for? Anyway, they because of that, and they got divorced, and so I'm 16. So by the time 3 years go by, and I'm burned in this age 19. So here's my mom and dad on both sides of my bed, and I can tell you that my commitment is the reason I'm here in front of you tonight. It's because I said somehow there's got to be a way to teach something about money so that it doesn't disrupt marriages and doesn't destroy families. And I just want you to understand that, because so I know you might take issue with this tracking and that. So if you want to track it digitally in your own way, you go ahead and do it, but don't miss the principle. The principle is a Money Huddle Weekly. The principle is you go back and then you use the information in historical terms to forecast forward, and then you compare. And you do that for, I'm suggesting to you, forever, for the rest of your life. Don't stop, ever. There's going to be enough issues come down the table. And when you get to Principle 8, getting organized, we talk about not just getting out of debt, talk about food storage and water storage, and how do you have reserves in so many different ways. How do you make a reservation? And Principle 7 is all about, what are you going to do about retirement? How can you retire? When will you retire? What kind of money will you want? What's the best way, the easiest way to create retirement income you can't outlive? All of those things are all hinging on what we just talked about this very second, today, right now. All of it. Without control, you're going to miss everything else. It'll be impossible for you to properly implement it. That I know. I just share that with you. Open it back up.
All right, Peter, thank you. Any questions from anyone? All right, I don't see any questions.
Did you automate things like when
Yeah,
you
Bert,
set
you
up
want to cover that?
Oh, okay.
No,
You
no,
want
go ahead, Sarah. Finish your question.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, did you? I guess we're gonna go over it eventually about automating like savings and accounts and stuff like that. How to make our money work for us, so that yes, we can meet weekly, but it's gonna just accrue over time on its own and not like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
I think what Peter just said a little while ago is that, and he is a big proponent of putting pen to paper and using it manually, and the huddle between you and your spouse would be very beneficial, because if you've got it on paper, you're able to look at what it is, where you are, and determine, okay, what happened that week. Did you both as a team stay on track with what you agreed on, so that going into next week you're on the same page, and then make any additional changes as you go through? Now, there is going to be some automation that we're going to be doing, and that's one of the things that I was going to cover, is that we have actually created the Mastering Your Money and Finances in an online course that goes along exactly with what we're doing right now. You're going to be able to go in and listen to the lessons, basically the exact principles that are in the book. You're going to be able to listen to it. You're going to have a tracking system that allows you to, or tries to help keep you on track with staying up to date on everything that we're going to be doing. So we're a little, because we've already had 2 sessions. I would recommend that you go ahead and go through the introduction. Um, go through, I think right now, because I think for the most part we covered principle two tonight instead of principle one. So maybe go back in and look at principle two, and then we'll come back, circle back around and pick up all the information that's in principle one at a subsequent meeting. But you're going to find the resources in that online course, and we'll get everybody put in. You're going to get a notification about that you've been enrolled into the online course. It's going to tell you thank you for making a payment and investing in your life by taking this course. There's no payment. Guys, because you are in this course right now, you're going to go on in the online course free of charge. We just want to this. You're going to be our first group that's going to be in that online course. We want to get your feedback from it so that we can continue to improve it and make it better as we go through. Does that sound good?
Thank you.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. So,
For next,
John, do you have a
Okay.
question?
what,
Next assignments, ready?
yep,
Okay, I want you to build your spending plan and have it ready to start tracking and start in May 1st. Okay. And start tracking your spending in that. And then we'll open up when we begin on how's your spending going in that. We'll still cover a few things from principle one, that everything's emotional, but that's going to carry over to 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So emotional, it has to go through everything. Okay, so you get to retirement, don't have any money, that's a very emotional experience. Okay, so next time we'd really like to cover 3 as well. So go up through 3 and build your spending plan and be aware of how to spend your money differently from those 3 parts. Is 60-20-20 rule. Okay. In other words, let me say it differently. There is no such thing as savings. You're going to learn that it's how we spend our money for the future. So you call it savings. You're going to learn that I'm spending it for another purpose. And now it's over here for that purpose. It's not in my bank account. Okay. So when you can start mentally and emotionally putting things in buckets, I call them, and then you've got money in buckets for emergency. Wow, surprise! What a wonderful treat! I mean, that's wonderful. You emotionally, you'll start feeling really, really at peace and in control.
Okay. All right, we appreciate it. Hey, there is one other thing. Let me make a suggestion. We are sending out a lot of emails and text messages to try to help keep you on pace and remind you of working on your assignments between now and our next meeting. On those texts, if you would, the number that you're getting the text from, go in and save that in your contacts and assign it to either the name Peter Jeppson, or you can assign it Balanced Life Principles. That way, when you get that text, you know what it's from and you're not overlooking it. So just a recommendation to make things go a lot smoother. And again, you're going to be getting some more information from the online course. Just be looking for that.
One other thing, Bert, that we should mention is that when you're in the online course, you can jump ahead. If you want to go to 7 about retirement, or 8 being organized, or 9 on taxes, please, or 10 on running a business, please do it. I mean, and we'll systematically take you through the principles as we have here. But if you want to jump ahead, please do. It's available for you.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's no more questions, we're right at the top of the hour and we'll go ahead and let everybody go.
thanks, Peter.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
guys.
Peter.
Thank you all.
Thanks for everything, Peter.
My pleasure, truly.